for March 1st, 2022 to order. And I'd ask you all to please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Let's get started with the rest of our items. Have a roll call, please.
Cumby.
Here.
Gabriel.
Here.
Harrington.
Here.
O'Doherty.
Here.
Schmickel.
Here, and Representative Somerville is in the attendees list.
Thank you. Schuster.
Here.
Pierce.
Here. Sorry, here.
Somerville.
Here. Thank you, Councilmember Schmeckel.
Weaver.
Here.
That's 9 present and 0 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, City Clerk. Council, everyone is in attendance. We'll go to public comments on non-agenda items. Public comments on non-agenda items. Those wishing to make a public comment are welcome to do so. We ask that you please follow the 3-minute per speaker time rule. And we'd like to welcome Anastasia.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for being here.
Yeah,
Thank you for being here, Ms. Preverton. Go right ahead with your comment.
Okay, dear all, my name is Anastasia. I'm 19, and I'm Ukrainian exchange student in the University of Wyoming. I can hardly reckon a guess that's based on the classes I had today. It's Tuesday, but generally for me, as for any other Ukrainian, it's simply a 6th day of a war. Whole-scale, unprovoked war in which Russian Federation uses propaganda, deception, and information falsification to justify military invasion of Ukraine, shelling civilians, destroying our cities, especially Kyiv, bombing kindergartens and maternity hospitals, putting on fire oil depots, taking over exclusion zone in Chernobyl, and intimidating the Europe with nuclear danger. It's been my 6 sleepless days and nights dedicated to addressing this agenda on my campus, reaching out to faculty, reaching out to Wyoming senators and local authorities, and sharing information on how to help Ukraine and what's going on in Ukraine. My family is in Kyiv, and I'm here, so bringing up this topic on every accessible level is the only thing I can do. That is the reason I'm speaking here. Firstly, I want to express our gratitude for the support the U.S. has provided us so far. It gives Ukrainian army resources to bravely defend our homeland. Secondly, I strive for drawing your attention to things that are pivotal today for every Ukrainian and are crucial for the world peace. Speaking in front of the City Council, I would like to point out the emphasis on the following. Firstly, the importance of sharing information from credible resources on what's going on in Ukraine and how it is possible to support Ukrainian army and Ukrainian society to improve the humanitarian situation in Ukraine. Sharing it through public events, sharing it through printouts in public spaces. As Russia has already threatened directly Finland, Sweden, Turkey, put the whole Europe on the verge of humanitarian catastrophe, and also threatened the world with using the nuclear weapon, it's self-evident we are talking not just about our own security, we are defending the whole world, especially Europe. The second point I would love to put an emphasis on is prohibiting selling Russian products. Given an instance, Ohio had already banned selling vodka in their state. Organizing a rally to protest against Russian genocide of Ukrainian people is one of the possible way to express solidarity with Ukrainians and also to protest against these act of aggression. And the last but not least, I'm aware of the fact that I'm in a very much right state. I'm also acquainted with US and NATO official stances, but I do not have and I also don't have an illusion how and who can act in this situation. However, you have probably heard about Revolution of Dignity and that Ukrainians went through 2014. So I do believe in the power of voice and community pressure. Hence, I cannot omit it. To let our army fight with the evil and to defend Ukraine, we need to have skies over Ukraine protected. I'm taking actions and I'm doing everything I can here in Laramie to address the war and to raise public awareness on what's going on and how to support Ukrainian army. And I await the very same from the local authorities. Thank you for your attention. Slava Ukraini.
Thank you for your comments and those important points that you've shared with us this evening. Public comment on non-agenda items remains open. I have a dual screen name. I'm going to recognize, I'm not sure who's speaking, but council would like to recognize Catherine Fitch and Alan Gonzalez Willert. You have the floor, whichever one of you is speaking.
Hi, this is Alan Gonzalez Willert.
And I'm Catherine Fitch.
We're both returned Peace Corps volunteers who served in Western Ukraine with the Peace Corps. I taught English at a school for 2 years near the city of Lviv. And Ukraine is a very important country to both of us. We both have people that we really care about and really love in Ukraine, including our host families and friends. And what we're trying to do in Laramie is organize a rally in support of Ukraine. Either with downtown Laramie or the city council, any tips on how to organize that would be really much appreciated. I have friends who text me about how they fear for their lives and their families' lives, and my host brother is currently at the front, helping to fight back the Russians. And although I could get into American foreign policy and European foreign policy, both of which are not nearly doing enough to help Ukrainians. I'm with Anastasia in saying that NATO needs to close the skies to give the Ukrainian army a fighting chance. Because right now they're holding the Russians back, but the Russians do have superior air power and numbers, and I just have to say we have to do more. So again, any advice on how to organize a support rally in downtown Laramie where we could educate people on what's going on in Ukraine, distribute literature, and we've also been in the we've been producing buttons as well. Any advice would be much appreciated. And my email is ag.max9@gmail.com. That's ag.max9@gmail.com. And again, thank you very much. And thank you to Anastasia also for being here. We stand with Ukraine, and thank you very much for your time.
And I just want to add in one thing. This is Catherine Fitch speaking. We care about Ukraine, and we had the opportunity to speak to a first-year course at the University of Wyoming about our experience, but more importantly, how important Ukraine is. It is not a dictatorship state, as many people have believed at one point. It is a free and sovereign nation, and as protectors of democracies, even Laramie has a role to play in protecting and being involved in Ukraine. I also have friends. I found out the village that I trained in for 3 months was bombed and is now occupied by Russian forces, and I have yet to hear from anyone that lived in that village. And it's been a very hard time for us to watch all that is happening, knowing how it is affecting our friends and our essential families' lives. So we support Anastastia, we support Ukraine, and we support Laramie supporting Ukraine. Slava Ukraini.
Heroям slava.
Thank you for your comments and your bringing attention to the issue that so many people are paying attention to now. By way of advice, if council, if you'll allow it, I'd just like to very quickly recommend that those folks go to the City of Laramie's website, get in touch with the city clerk who can help facilitate the process of what is involved with organizing a public event, a rally, or something to that effect to achieve what the speakers inquired about. Those things are certainly things that can be done in the city of Laramie, and it's a relatively straightforward process. I'd recommend starting with the city clerk's office. Other public comment on non-agenda items. Seeing none, City Council will close the public comment on non-agenda items and move to the next item on the agenda, which for us this evening will be consideration of changes to the agenda. Vice Mayor Pierce.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Weaver. I move that the following change to the agenda be approved. We are going to be adding to our regular meeting an executive session on item number 16. It's regarding litigation, Wyoming Statute 16-4-405, lowercase a, Roman numeral 3.
Second.
The motion and a second. Council members in favor, please say aye or raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
That motion carries. Vice Mayor Pierce.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the agenda be set as changed.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Council members, same sign if you're in favor. Aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion carries. Takes us now to item number 6, proclamations, public hearings, notifications. Proclamations and presentations. We do have a presentation this evening, council and guests. And to begin that, I'd like to recognize our finance officer, Jen Wade. Thank you for being here. It's over to you.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Councilors. This evening is our presentation of Wyoming Community Gas Community Project Distributions. City has been participating in this program since 2002 and receives an annual rebate based on community participation. This year, the rebate totals $24,058.53. The Finance Committee recommended and the City Council approved even distribution of this rebate between 3 local organizations: Laramie Interfaith, Laramie Soup Kitchen, and the Downtown Clinic. I'd like to welcome our special guests from these organizations: Ted Kramer, Executive Director of the Soup Kitchen, Josh Watanabe, Executive Director of Interfaith, and Pete Gosar, Executive Director of the Downtown Clinic. I would also like to welcome Natalie Flood, Senior Business Development Manager at Wyoming Community Gas. And at this time, I'd like to ask Natalie to officially make this year's Community Project Distribution presentation.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, great. Sorry, I guess my camera's not working for some reason, but thank you all for allowing me to join the call this evening. Thank you, Jen, for that great introduction. Just want to start out with a quick couple notes about Wyoming Community Gas. So we are one of the natural gas suppliers that participates in the annual Black Hills Choice Program. Each year, the Choice Program provides customers the opportunity to get a competitive price for their natural gas and a price option that best suits their particular needs, instead of being limited to the utilities rate and not having
Natalie, I'm afraid we've lost your sound now as well. I'll give you a moment.
Sorry about that, guys. I was on mute, I think, in an attempt to help me get on camera here. Okay, are we good now? Sorry about that. Thank you. So the city of Laramie is one of 24 Wyoming Community Gas member communities. And so because of this, as Jen mentioned, you guys do receive a distribution each year from Wyoming Community Gas, which is based on the number of customers in Laramie that chose Wyoming Community Gas as their supplier. So this past April, Wyoming Community Gas did have another successful selection period and had an additional 17 customers in Laramie choose Wyoming Community Gas as their supplier. So even though the total distribution among all of our member communities stayed the same, these 17 additional customers in Laramie brought the total distribution up by almost $200 from the year before to the $24,058.53 that Jen mentioned earlier. So, 17 customers, $200 extra dollars, I'll take that all day. So since you guys did decide to split this year's distribution between these three wonderful and deserving organizations, each one of them will receive a check from Wyoming Community Gas in the amount of $8,019.51. So I would like to give each of these gentlemen a chance to introduce themselves and talk to the council. So first up, Ted, are you on and available to talk?
Yes, absolutely. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful. Well, yes, this is such an exciting time to be once again selected as one of the recipient agencies for Wyoming Community Gas distributions. We try to promote people selecting Wyoming Community Gas, and I'm myself a customer because it does do so much for our community, and it's just so exciting to be able to share this distribution with two other amazing agencies that we work in conjunction with all the time, Downtown Clinic and Laramie Interfaith. So this really is, like I said, an exciting time. Thank you so much for selecting us as one of the recipients. Again, it is so helpful to us. It's been a interesting year, as everyone knows, or 2 years really. Our costs are up, our demand is up. We are still meeting the need as best we can. And this is just another way that the city helps us and partners with us to be able to meet that need. So really, thank you so much.
All right, Pete, with the Downtown Clinic, would you like to go next?
Thank you, and good evening. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Good evening, Mayor Weaver, members of the City Council. Thank you for having me. I am Pete Gosar, the Executive Director of the Downtown Clinic, and I'd like to say thank you to you all, Natalie, and all the ratepayers of Wyoming Community Gas, Jen Wade at the city, and last but not least, of course, Ted and Josh, who do such good work at those agencies that are represented tonight. I'd like to thank you for investing, along with the staff and volunteers that come every day with the idea that they push back against the idea, and their work is testament that some lives shouldn't matter less. And so with your designation, Wyoming Community Gas and the ratepayers' generosity, you make this inspirational work possible. On behalf of myself as a citizen of Albany County and the city of Laramie, I'm also the director of the Downtown Clinic. I'm truly grateful. Your efforts help us build a community that we believe is more just and equitable at the end of the day, and I so do appreciate it. Thank you all.
Thank you, Pete. And then finally, Josh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council, and Wyoming Community Gas, Natalie. My name is Josh Watanabe. I'm the Executive Director of Laramie Interfaith. I don't know how to add to what Ted and Pete have already said so well. The support we receive from the city, from our community partners, from so many of the small businesses and Wyoming businesses that add to what we can do for our communities. We really couldn't do this work without all of that support, and we're extremely grateful, and just thank you again.
Wonderful. All right, that's it for me. Thank you again, Mayor and Council, for having me here this evening.
Absolutely. And thank you all for being here. And we're glad to see that some additional resources are able to be provided by the program.
Yes, agreed.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Director Wade, thank you for the introductions for the presentation. All right. That takes us now to next item on our agenda, 6C, for announcements. City Manager, do we have any announcements this evening?
Thank you, Mayor. We do not have announcements this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll close and move on to item number 7, disclosures by city council members. Are there any city council members that wish to make a disclosure about any items coming before us on our agenda this evening? Seeing none. Vice Mayor Pierce, item number 8.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I move that the consent agenda be approved and that each specific action on the consent agenda be approved as indicated.
Second.
It's a motion and a second from Councilmember Schuster. City Clerk, can we have a roll call vote on this item?
Humby,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Harrington,
Yes.
O'Doherty,
Yes.
Schmeckel,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Somerville,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
Thank you. And that motion for the consent agenda has been approved. We're going to open the regular agenda now. Item number 10, regular agenda, and immediately to item number 11, Councilmember O'Doherty.
I move that council award the bid for the Laramie City Hall makeup air units 1 and 2 design, build, replacement project to the Climate Control for LLC of Cheyenne, Wyoming, in an amount not to exceed $312,975.00 and reserve $31,298.00 for potential project contingencies, along with approving the construction contract and associated budget amendment in the amount of $274,273.00 for a total amount not to exceed $344,273.00 and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign.
Second.
Got all that right.
So a motion from Councilmember O'Doherty, a second from Councilmember Harrington. I see that we've got Assistant City Manager Feeser for background on the item. Welcome.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor. Actually, I'm going to turn the background over to Scott Stevenson. I just wanted to let you know that we also have in attendance the contractor, Gabriel Herrera from Climate Control, to give council a little bit of information on what they've seen in the mechanical realm as far as increases throughout the past couple of years. But without any further ado, I'd turn it over to Scott Stevenson.
Welcome, Mr. Stevenson.
Honorable Mayor and members of City Council. In 2017, the city's HVAC maintenance contractor identified city-owned HVAC units that were experiencing excessive repair costs or were nearing the end of their useful life. The 2 makeup air units at City Hall were identified as the most problematic, and they were listed as the highest priority for replacement. These units were budgeted for replacement before staff could solicit bids for the project. Honeywell International let staff know that they would like to include this project in an investment-grade audit identifying projects that energy-saving equipment and methods to be utilized to save utility costs for. The investment-grade audit was completed in 2020, and it estimated the cost of replacing these units, including the energy-saving components, would be $224,000, with annual energy savings of $4,872 and O&M savings of $2,200. Upon completion of the audit, Honeywell submitted a proposal to the city for an energy improvement project, which included the replacement of the City Hall makeup air units. The city decided to reject the proposal and pursue the improvement projects internally. In January of this year, the staff solicited bids for the MAU replacements that included the energy-saving components identified by the audit. The two bids received were both substantially over budget. Staff recommends approval of the bid award along with approving a budget amendment from unencumbered capital construction funds. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Stevenson from the council? It's a good straightforward explanation of where we're at. City Council, we've got Mr. Herrera with us here as well. I'd like to see if he wants to add anything to what we've already heard.
No, I think it's a good move on the city's part of doing the energy piece to the project. Right now, you're bringing in 100% outside air. How the system was designed, which is fine, but as we're bringing in outside air when it's cold or hot, you're now going to have the opportunity to gain some of that energy that you've put into the building. So that, for example, some of the numbers I've ran, when you have a 0 degree day, you're going to be able to use that heat exchanger and gain about 50 degrees on that of basically energy that you've already used, and you're just not going to throw away. So, in the long run of the city and the building, I think it's a good move. Yeah, look forward to working on the project with you guys.
Seems like we just had a couple of 0 degree days. Council members, question. Councilmember O'Doherty.
If this is like the air-to-air heat exchangers that I have, is it so I just want people to know that as the hot air is going out, it's running by the coils where the cold air is coming in, so that energy, that heat gets transferred. Is that the way this works too? So it's also the way duct's feet work. The reason
that is correct. That is exactly what is happening here. This is a flat plate heat exchanger. There are multiple types of heat exchangers, but this is the one that will give us probably the best heat transfer with the lowest maintenance. So it's something that has been around a long time. We're not on the bleeding edge here. It's been used for a long time, and it's tried and true. And it's a good product. So I think you'll be very happy with it.
Thank you.
Council members, other questions for staff or guests? Seeing none, I want to thank Mr. Herrera and appreciate the information from Mr. Stevenson and the recommendation from our staff. Assistant City Manager, would you like to add anything else?
No, sir.
Thank you. Why don't we see if there's any public comment on this item? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. City Council, if you're ready to vote, let's have the city clerk do a roll call.
Humby.
Yes.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Schmeckel.
Yes.
Schuster.
Yes.
Somerville.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk and City Council. That motion carries. And that takes us to item number 12. Council would like to recognize Councilmember Harrington.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve City Council Resolution number 2022-18, providing written notice again related to the delayed improvement agreement between BFR Development Incorporated and the City of Laramie, Wyoming, and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the resolution.
Second.
Second from Vice Mayor Pierce. Motion from Councilmember Harrington, second from Vice Mayor Pierce. Assistant City Manager Feaser.
Well, Mayor, City Council, it's a pleasure to be here with you tonight. To remind everybody, in 1985, the city entered into an agreement with BFR Development, a subdivider for delayed improvements related in South Laramie, just east of 3rd Street, kind of in the Boswell area, where Corona Village and Super 8 Hotel, I believe, sit now. Through that agreement, they had agreed to build sections of Bill Nye and a bridge over the Spring Creek Channel. That agreement was another agreement was entered into in 1990, redeveloping some of the terms of that agreement, and none of this was financially secured at the time. What we're doing tonight is ratifying, formally requesting under the 1990 agreement, which we'd already done under the 1985 agreement early in the year, but we're doing it under the 1990 agreement, requesting that a portion of Bill Nye and the bridge over Spring Creek Channel be built as per the agreement. With that being said, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Questions for the city staff from council? See if there's any public comment on this item. No public comment indicated, so we'll close public comment. Back to the council. Sensing that you're ready for a vote, City Clerk, may I have a roll call vote on the item?
Humby.
Yes.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Schmeckel.
Yes.
Schuster.
Yes.
Somerville.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk and City Council. That motion carries. That takes us to item number 13. Vice Mayor Pierce.
Thank you, Mayor Weaver. I just would like to introduce for discussion the idea to allow staff to prepare an ordinance for formal adoption of new ward boundaries.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Pierce. Without objection from the council, bring that item forward for discussion. And I don't know who would like to lead the discussion off. The City Clerk. City Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, this evening, the reason we put this discussion on your agenda was to see if we could get direction from the council in preparation for bringing an ordinance forward. As you know, we are required to have an ordinance passed by a date certain time frames in order to allow the county clerk to be able to prepare election processes for moving forward. So our goal tonight, although we have received additional information today that the bills in the Senate and the House are still being processed and worked on, we are asking the council to go ahead and move forward with choosing a map out of the two that the council had discussed in December. And I can go ahead and screen share the presentation, but in your packet tonight, you do have two maps, and I'll go ahead and share my screen here. So this slide is just reminding everyone that we are redrawing ward boundaries to meet the state statute that requires that we have nearly equal wards. This is a map of what we currently have and a summary of what our populations currently show with the 2020 census count. I think it put the wrong map in there, but 2.1 is the map that the county, after we met in December, proposed back to the council with a few adjustments. This has been reviewed by the county elections team, as well as Sean Kraft, our GIS analyst, and city manager, city attorney, myself, and provided to the council in our packet today. I apologize, council. I really thought that we had map 2 here, which was the map that was closest to 2.1. So I'll pull that up here. But just to let you know, the county clerk is with us today. If you have any questions, she can help us with questions regarding the direction that she's recommended, as well as the direction that staff are recommending from the city. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, City Clerk. I'd also note that the Deputy Clerk is here as well. We may want to admit the Deputy Clerk in as well. And I see that Councilmember O'Doherty has raised her hand. Councilmember O'Doherty?
I just want to tell the city clerk, I think that proposal 2 is close enough to the county clerk's 2.1 or whatever it is, that unless somebody on council is really dying to see the difference, both of them, my version 2, they have the future and present location of the dorms in the same ward. So the one that the county clerk has proposed includes that. It also has a range of incomes for the census blocks that go from some of the lowest income districts to some of the highest in our census blocks. So I feel like it's a good mix of economic, whatever the right term is. So I think that the proposal 2.1 by the county clerk goes after what is similar enough to this proposal, my number 2. And I personally support this one because I think it does the economic stratification, and it's more in line with what the legislature is going to throw at us. Thank you.
Other comments? Councilmember Somerville.
Thank you, Mayor. I apologize for feeling a little bit behind here because I don't remember seeing that proposal 2 in our packet. But I do have some concerns with the council moving forward with any map selection tonight. They are not done. There is significant differences between the House and the Senate versions of the bill. This likely will not be finished probably until next week, if I had to take a guess. I also have concerns about the proposal back from the county clerk. I think that it doesn't even come close to what the direction was from council before, and it doesn't address some of the concerns that we brought up. So I guess, Mayor, I would ask us not to make a selection tonight and to wait until we actually have an agreed upon map between the two sides.
Thank you, Councilmember Somerville. For Councilmember Somerville's benefit, I'd like to touch on a couple of the points that were raised in the pre-meeting about this because I think they're relevant to her comments. Is there any objection? Councilmember Somerville, those points are well taken. We did talk about 2 things that I think are relevant to a couple of points that you raised. One is that I think staff and council are aware that we may need to approve a different map, and I think what we're based on changes that are made in Cheyenne, the legislature. I think what we have been asked to do from the staff is to go ahead and allow for the process of drafting an ordinance, and we may need to be prepared to amend with a map with changes that incorporate anything that is, for lack of a better word, imposed on us by decisions made by the legislature. And so I think there's a need to go ahead and get the ball rolling for an ordinance process, but the maps may be subject to change depending on what we see from the legislature. But there is an issue of timing in terms of getting the ordinance on for council consideration. I see you've raised your hand again, so I'd like you to be able to respond.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that, and I apologize for not being able to attend pre-meeting tonight. So I guess I do appreciate that. However, I feel that we would be wasting our time. I mean, the difference between a 30-60 proposal and a 31-62 proposal is still certainly up for discussion in Cheyenne. There are a lot of concerns. And I guess I'd like to ask a second question, which is if we could hear some explanation as to the direction either from city staff or the county clerk. We don't have a recommended map that looks anything like the one that council supported when we last discussed this. They are not even close. So I guess I would like some, I don't know if you guys talked about that as well, but some information along those lines.
Not so much to that point, Councilmember Somerville. And so I'm not sure who would like to tackle the council members' questions first. Any takers? Councilmember O'Doherty.
That map was in a packet that I sent you the day of those meetings, Councilor Somerville, and I was surprised that you didn't bring them up. So I think that you overlooked it. But we did talk about this with the county clerk before, and what happens with that map, the one that looks like it has a truck or a race car or something in there, it does weird things with boundaries relative to the House districts and ends up making a lot of slivers that would make we lose the privacy of the vote if we put in some small precincts. And it was also, Jackie can discuss this, or the county clerk can discuss this about the why we couldn't why that was problematic for her office. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember O'Doherty. We could see if the county clerk would like to weigh in. Certainly not required to, but if you have some thoughts to those questions in this discussion, county clerk, please go ahead and share them with us.
Thank you, Mayor Weaver and members of City Council. We want to work with council and certainly had offered a map that provided more equal deviation within the numbers for the 3 ward boundaries. Certainly it's the decision of the board, and we're happy to, or pardon me, it's the decision of the council, and we're happy to support their needs and their recommendations. I am here to support the concern of City Clerk Nancy Bartholomew in terms of trying to start the process so that within the timeline that we have, council is able to have their 3 readings on the ordinance, and whether at that time amendments need to be made, at least the clock or the process starts. And it will help both her as well as my office when I go before the Board of County Commissioners to set not only the polling places, but confirm the boundaries with redistricting.
Thank you, County Clerk, and thanks for taking some time to be with us this evening. I have a quick question for you before I call the next member, and that is, what is that statutory deadline to have these local government districts ready?
Actually, I have to propose to the Board of County Commissioners their first meeting in May, and please bear in mind that I believe that day is May 5th and filing commences on May 12th. And so our window to try to educate the public as well as provide the correct information to all the electors is a really slim timeline that we have to work with.
Thank you, County Clerk. And I will say this, the City Council has, of course, discussed the potential need for special meetings to make sure that the 3 readings are each done in a timely fashion with that deadline under consideration. Councilmember Schmeckel, I see that you raised your hand.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember O'Doherty used the word the privacy of the vote could be compromised. I'm wondering if she or Clerk Gonzalez could help unpack that term for us to help us understand it, please.
I'll go ahead and pick on Councilmember O'Doherty and explain that first, and then we'll see.
I use that term, but I think the clerk probably has a better term for it.
All right.
Do you know what I mean, County Clerk, about how these lines are drawn? That's how I understood it when we had our meeting with the clerk the last time.
Sure. We want to preserve the vote of any elector. And if we have a small population where votes are minimal, then if you're talking with your neighbor and you know you cast a ballot and they may not have, it could potentially not allow for the privacy of that vote for that particular individual. So that's a big concern for us and certainly for any elector out there.
Thank you.
Other questions? Councilmember O'Doherty?
Councilmember, through you, Mayor, to Councilmember Schmeckel, there are places around the state that have a precinct that has 3 divisions because of house districts. And so then when that information has to be presented because that's how the vote gets verified. And so if you have 2 people left in that and they all voted the same way, then anybody in that district, you know how they voted. So, so we want to avoid that.
To the extent possible. Any other follow-up discussion? Councilmember Schmeckel, does that help you? Okay. I think we're in a kind of a jam, council members, a little bit. Other discussion? Councilmember Somerville?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do we have a current depiction that we can share screen with the most recently approved redistricting map? So that'd be Senate second reading after the amendments over the top of what's being proposed for us to basically kind of sign off on tonight. I do understand the privacy issue, but I'm wondering
Sure.
how relevant that is to this discussion in terms of likelihood.
Yeah, looks like the city clerk has something for us here. Thank you. Councilmember Somerville, you still have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. City clerk, can we overlay the ward boundaries that were proposed or by council before and then this proposal over the top of those so we can see what those differences are?
City clerk, that's a little bit of a technical request. I'm not sure that you're able to do that. If you want some time, we could certainly recess and allow you to do that if you think you can, but
Mayor, I don't know if I have the capability of doing that, to be honest.
can we show the 2 maps on the same screen at the same time as a possible alternative? Again, the offer to recess for a few minutes to let you get that together stands.
Yeah, a recess may be great, Mayor. Thank you.
Why don't we just take just a couple of minutes? Before I call that recess, Councilmember O'Doherty, I saw you had a hand.
Yeah, the parts that were creating problems were the southern part of the city where that thing that looks like a keyhole or it looks like a virus in the southern center part of the city. With our other map, that got put with 13 and that created a problem. So it's these areas around the edge of the city that I think are the biggest problem.
Councilmember Somerville, do you still have a request to look at both of those maps at the same time out there for us?
Mr. Mayor, I do.
Okay, so why don't we'll just recess for a few minutes, folks. Thanks for your patience. I can see the value in trying to look at those 2 at the same time. City clerk, if you can, go ahead. And if that ends up being a big problem, I'm going to stay.
ground-wise abatement amendment that moved today, as compared to the map we thought would be preferred and forthcoming based on conversations that you've had previously. But what I did want to clarify, if I could, Mayor, is we understand certainly that as a council that you have strong concerns about how our ward boundaries end up falling within the ultimate redistricting decision of the legislature. And our intent tonight is not for you to choose the ideal map. We understand that we have to act within what the legislature hands us. But as Councilor Somerville has said, we won't finally know what that legislative map looks like until the end of session on March 11th. What we need to do tonight, our objective, is not to find the perfect map, because there is no perfect map right now, frankly, but it is to get some direction from you as to which map to use to start first reading, with a full and well-known recognition that once redistricting decisions are finally made by the legislature, that you will have to come back and on second meeting, likely amend by substitution that ordinance. We have to get the direction from you tonight as to what to draft into first reading on March 8th in order to meet all of these statutory deadlines because of 10-day notice requirements and publication requirements, et cetera. So we know the map is not the focus tonight. What is the focus is the need to initiate the process.
Thank you, City Manager. I appreciate that. County Clerk, are you with us still?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. I'd like to ask you a question. You outlined for us the need to bring the maps before the Board of Commissioners so that polling places can be approved and this work can be done before the filing for the primary election for all offices, including the city council offices. And I believe that I'm correct in thinking that ideally, of course, we would do this and have these ready with as much available time as possible before filing for the need for public education. In a very technical sense, the maps could wait until the filing date. Not that we would want to do that in any way, but would that be correct? Or is there a need to have the maps approved and available before the filing date? Now, that's setting aside the practical considerations of people needing to know what district they're in and so forth. But in a very technical sense, is that your understanding?
Mayor Weaver, certainly the maps do not have to I guess, pardon me, in regards to your question, if I understand it correctly, you're asking whether or not the map needs to be in place by the approval of the Board of County Commissioners. Is that correct?
Yes, that's a more concise way of putting that question.
Yes, the map will have to be in place by that time solely because by statute, I have to notify every elector within 5 days after the boundaries are set by the Board of County Commissioners, their election districts, precincts, polling places, and I also include information in regards to the wards that an elector is entitled to vote in. And so having that information available by that timeline is very imperative in providing the information needed to share with all of the electors.
Thank you, County Clerk. So, Council, coupling that information with the points that were raised by the City Manager, I think needs to be something that we do for this discussion. Keeping alive in our minds the understanding that we may have to amend the map depending on what we hear and see out of Cheyenne. But I do think what we need to do is, frankly, for the sake of time, approve a map and then start working. Councilmember Somerville.
Thank you, Mayor, and I appreciate the council's patience tonight. I just want to let the council know I have no desire to try to slow down the process. I appreciate the county clerk's and the city clerk's deadlines, and I don't have any issue with moving forward and starting to craft an ordinance. I think that it's extraordinarily duplicative work because likely the map that we have today will absolutely not be the map that we get consensus on out of the Wyoming legislature. So that was my concern there. I will, however, voice a concern with the council as the only member that lives west of the railroad tracks. I wholeheartedly object to these maps that were proposed, and I don't want to get into it. This is not the night for it, but I hope the council will take that into consideration. There's only one of 9 of us in this section of the city, and I wholeheartedly object. So I'm happy to start the process, and I will continue to work on it as we go through the process. But I just wanted to let everybody know where I'm at on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Somerville. That's a point well taken. And I think we've heard from our staff folks, the position isn't so much about the perfect map as it is the need to begin the process. So I would suggest, council, that what our choice here is which of these do we want to begin using as our placeholder, frankly, for the first and second reading discussions. Councilmember O'Doherty.
Yeah, the problem, Councilor Somerville, is that we got no buy-in from our legislators about changing this. Like, they got something mostly passed, by their colleagues, and to carve it up in a different direction really makes it, like just wasn't going to happen. So I just created a map that shows the Beitman proposal, which in the city of Laramie isn't that different from any of the other proposals. So I just sent that, and you can see how it carves up sections. It makes it pretty ugly as far as trying to figure out precincts. So I sent it to council. I guess I could have been polite and sent it to Jackie and said I don't have everybody coming up automatically, but maybe our city clerk could bring it up.
Yes, I'm sure she can. Thank you, Councilmember Somerville. Council, I'm going to stress the point again that I think our task tonight is to essentially choose a placeholder map beginning the 3 readings of the ordinance process. Councilmember Schmeckel.
Thank you, Mayor. Recognizing that this map is likely to be replaced in the second reading of this, I move that we accept map 2.1 as a placeholder map to move forward with on this process.
Second.
All right, there's a motion and a second from the Vice Mayor. Discussion on the motion. Comments on the motion from relevant guests, if there are any comments, which I suppose kind of singles out the county clerk. Certainly don't need to, but here's an opportunity to make any comments about that motion. Okay. Council discussion on this? Public comments on the motion to move forward with map 2.1 to begin the ordinance process. All right. No public comments. Council? Further discussion on Councilmember Schmeckel's motion? City Clerk, can we have a roll call vote?
Humby.
Yes.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Schmeckel.
Yes.
Schuster.
Yes.
Somerville.
No.
Pierce.
Yes.
Weaver.
No.
That's 7 yeses and 2 noes, Your Honor.
And that motion carries. And that takes us to item number 14. But before we move on to item number 14, I'd like to, without objection from the council, just sort of summarize and recap. So we've chosen a map for our process of ordinance adoption for the new wards. And I think it's well understood from the previous discussion that that very well may be subject to change. Council, is everyone of that understanding as well? Okay, thank you. Just to reiterate, recap. All right. Public comments on non-agenda items. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. And also just a quick thanks to the folks from the county clerk's office for taking time to join us tonight at this meeting. We do appreciate your time very much. And we'll work with you to get these maps adopted and ready for the voters. Thank you for your time again. All right. Item number 15, consideration of future council work session topics and any discussion about upcoming meetings. Councilmember Gabriel.
Thanks, Mayor. I was curious about Fifth Tuesday. Has there been any discussion about what might be happening this month?
No, council member, not that I know of.
Just thought I'd bring it up for possible discussion, or maybe in the future we could figure out what we might want to be doing on that Fifth Tuesday.
Sure. Any thoughts, Councilmember O'Doherty?
I'd be up for meeting at the fire station with the Ward 3 councilors.
All right. Other council members, I'd suggest that you discuss with your fellow ward members how you might like to move forward with that, and then get that information to the city clerk. Councilmember Schuster.
Thank you. We're not back to normal. We're not even close to being back to normal. But I would kind of like to see what happens here in 2 weeks, and because a lot of the mask mandates have been moved to as you see fit. That's what I'm going to use the word as. If you wish to wear one, wear one. If you do not wish to wear one, do not wear one. So I don't know how soon you want to consider this, but could we consider meeting back at our old original places? I would consider going back to the fire department on rentals.
Councilmember Schuster, are we talking about for ward meetings?
Yes,
or are we
yes, I'm sorry. I thought we were still talking ward meetings.
No. No need to apologize. I just wanted to make sure. I think this is a discussion that's going to be upcoming. I think for the time being, ward members that want to meet need to talk about how they want to do that with their other ward members. What I think I've heard so far is that the Ward 3 council members are all willing to meet at the fire station for a Fifth Tuesday. I think for the other ward members, we need to communicate quickly about that amongst ourselves and then get that information to the city clerk so she can provide public notice for how ward meetings are going to go. City clerk, does that work for you?
Thank you, Mayor. That'd be great. If we have it before next Friday, I could go ahead and place it on the next agenda for March 15th to set those meetings. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. So wards 1 and 2 members, let's figure those things out and get that information to the city clerk as soon as possible. All right. Any other discussion about work session topics or upcoming meetings? All right. Appreciate the thoughts. That is going to take us to item number 16. And I'm going to turn that over now to Councilmember Schuster.
Thank you very much. I ask the City Council to adjourn to executive session regarding litigation for Wyoming State Statute 164.403, small numeral A, Roman numeral 3.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. All right. Council, it's 7:40, so we'll see you in the executive session shortly. Thank you very much.